Chapter 6, Building the Right Budget. In this chapter, we are going to talk about one of the most emotional parts of any construction project, the budget. Now, the budget is where excitement and reality usually meet for the first time. And for a lot of owners, this is also where stress starts showing up. Before real pricing conversations begin, most people are carrying a number in their head. Sometimes that number came from online research, sometimes from a friend's project, sometimes from a contractor conversation, sometimes from social media, and sometimes it is simply the number they hope the project costs. But here is what I want property owners to understand early. A hopeful number is not the same thing as a real project budget. And the earlier you understand the difference, the more control you keep throughout the project. Most owners are working from a guess. One thing I see constantly is owners emotionally attaching themselves to a number very early. It makes sense. People naturally want certainty. They want to know, how much is this going to cost? The problem is construction pricing depends on clarity. And early in the process, most projects are not fully clear yet. The scope may still be evolving. The design may still be incomplete. Site conditions may still be unknown. Utility requirements may still be unclear. Selections may not be finalized, and hidden conditions have not been uncovered yet. So when owners hear rough early numbers, they often mistake them for actual project budgets. But real budgets require much more information than most people realize. The difference between a rough number and a real budget. This distinction is important. A rough number is usually directional. A real budget is strategic. A rough number says, maybe this project is somewhere around this range. The real budget says, based on the current scope, assumptions, conditions, risks, and project requirements, this is the likely investment range. Those are very different levels of certainty. Many owners become frustrated later because they emotionally committed to rough numbers too early. Then, as the project becomes more defined, the real costs start becoming clearer. Now, suddenly the owner feels like prices are increasing, but in reality, the project may simply be becoming more accurately understood. This is why clarity matters before emotionally anchoring to a budget. What most owners forget to include. One of the biggest budget mistakes owners make is only thinking about contractor pricing. The total project cost is usually much bigger than the contractor contract alone. Depending on the project, the budget may also include, now get ready for it, architecture, engineering, permits, plan check fees, utility upgrades, site work, surveying, consultants, temporary housing, storage, financing costs, insurance adjustments, owner purchase materials, appliances, landscaping, contingency, and sometimes hidden conditions. These costs add up quickly, and if they are not considered early, owners end up feeling blindsided later. That is why I encourage owners to stop thinking only in terms of construction price and start thinking in terms of total project investment. That mindset changes the way projects are planned. The danger of building the project backward. Here is something I see happen a lot. An owner starts with a budget number, then tries to force the project into it emotionally, instead of allowing the budget and scope to align strategically together. That usually creates tension throughout the project, because if the vision is significantly larger than the financial reality, something eventually has to give. Either the budget increases, the scope changes, the finish level changes, or the owner experiences constant frustration trying to hold everything together. Their vision, scope, and budget all need to work together honestly, not emotionally, honestly. Why budgets drift. One thing I always tell owners is this: budgets usually drift through small decisions, not one giant decision. It is rarely just one catastrophic event. Usually it looks more like this: a finish upgrade here, a layout adjustment there, an appliance change, additional lighting, hidden damage, utility changes, permit corrections, schedule extensions, material upgrades, extra labor, and slowly the project starts drifting further from the original expectations. This is why owners need structure around decisions, because once construction starts moving quickly, emotional decisions become expensive very fast. Contingency is not optional. This is one of the most misunderstood parts of construction budgeting: contingency. A lot of owners look at contingency and think, I probably will not need that. But honestly, contingency exists because construction involves unknowns, especially in remodels, especially in older homes, when walls are being opened, when utilities are involved, when existing conditions are uncertain. Contingency is not pessimism, it is preparation. And the more uncertainty a project carries, the more important contingency becomes. Because without contingency, every unexpected issue immediately becomes emotional. Now the owner feels trapped financially every time something changes. But when contingency exists, the project becomes more resilient. The emotional side of budgeting. Budget conversations are emotional for most people. And honestly, I think that is normal. Construction projects usually involve large amounts of money, sometimes life savings, sometimes financing, investment capital, sometimes long-term debt. So naturally, owners feel pressure. And what I've noticed is this: when owners do not fully understand the budget structure, they often experience constant anxiety during construction. Every invoice feels stressful, every change feels threatening, every unknown feels overwhelming. But when the budget is organized clearly and expectations are realistic, owners tend to feel calmer because they understand the larger picture. This is one of the hidden benefits of strong pre-construction planning. It reduces emotional volatility later. Low budgets can create higher costs. This part surprises some people, but sometimes unrealistic budgets actually create more expensive outcomes. Because when the budget is too disconnected from reality, owners often end up rebidding repeatedly, redesigning repeatedly, changing direction constantly, pausing projects midway, making rushed, low-cost decisions, or choosing incomplete proposals simply because the number feels safer emotionally. And those decisions can create larger costs later through corrections, delays, rework, and change orders. This is why realistic budgeting is not about spending more unnecessarily. It is about building from reality instead of hope. Smart owners build flexibility into the project. One thing strong owners do really well is they create flexibility early. They identify what is essential, what is optional, what can be phased, what can wait, what adds the most value, what matters most long-term. This creates strategic decision-making. Because now, if the project starts experiencing budget pressure, the owner already understands where flexibility exists. That prevents emotional panic decisions later. Projects feel much healthier when flexibility is intentionally built into the planning process. The goal is not the cheapest project. This is important. The goal is not simply to build the cheapest possible project. The goal is to build the smartest project for your goals, your property, and your budget. Sometimes that means simplifying intelligently. Sometimes it means investing more intentionally. Sometimes it means phasing the project. Sometimes it means redefining scope. But whatever direction the project takes, the budget should support the larger purpose of the project, not fight against it constantly. What a good project budget feels like. A strong project budget usually feels grounded. You understand the likely investment range. You understand the major cost categories where uncertainty still exists. You understand what could increase costs later, what contingency exists. You understand your financial comfort zone. That clarity changes the emotional experience of the project because uncertainty creates stress, but visibility creates stability. Final thought. The one thing I want you to remember in this chapter is that a real budget is not based on what you hope the project costs. It is based on what the project is likely to require. The earlier you build financial clarity into your project, the more stable your decisions become later, because budgets do not protect themselves. Owners protect budgets through planning, structure, and intentional decision-making. Before you build the project, build the financial strategy first. That is what creates smarter construction. Thank you for listening to Before You Build It. If you want additional budgeting tools, planning resources, or guidance for your project, visit goeasyproject.com/beforeyoubuildit. And if you're preparing for an ADU remodel, addition, rebuild, or major construction project, you can also schedule a complimentary project strategy session